We're okay to go. My name is Natasha Swayze. Thank you all for joining us today. I have the privilege of being amongst Kimberly and Katie, who will talk about who they are. And um, we're so excited to share our budget tool and talk about go back to school shopping. Little bit about me. I am the program specialist in the financial wellness department. And I do work closely with Katie at the USAA Educational Foundation. This is our second webinar together, so I'm super excited to dive in to this tool that they created specifically for you all as caregivers.
Thanks so much, Natasha. Hi, everybody. My name is Katie Casey Macias. I am a certified financial planner professional and a military qualified financial planner with the USA Educational Foundation. And I'm also a military spouse. Just a little quick bit about the Educational Foundation. We are a separate 501c3 nonprofit. So we create free financial education resources specifically for the military and caregiver community. We don't provide financial advice or tax or investment advice. So if you need that kind of assistance, I encourage you to speak with a licensed professional in your area. Today, we're going to talk about one of my favorite financial planning topics, and that is budgeting. And before everybody gets tired and thinks it's so boring, I hope we can kind of energize you about this really great topic today. So I will pass it over to Kimberly.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kimberly. I am a 2024 Elizabeth Dole Caregiver Fellow from Texas, and I am so excited to be here. It's my first webinar with the USAA Foundation, but I'm so excited because I love budgeting as well.
All right. Well, one of the reasons that we're doing this today is budgeting is such a foundational topic, and it's a great way to take charge of your financial well-being. So I've had the pleasure of working with Elizabeth Dole Foundation now for almost, gosh, it's been almost 3 years now, Natasha, and we created the Caregiver Financial Journey. And one portion of that we've recently updated is the budgeting tool. So we have this amazing tool called Budget Builder, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to walk through this fantastic tool. And then we're going to talk a little bit about budgeting, and then we're going to talk about back to school because it can be pricey to get your kids back to school. So the Caregiver Financial Journey can be found at usaaef.org/caregiver. You scroll down a little bit, and we're going to go to our wellness guide. And the guide has a lot of content beyond budgeting. It covers all of the foundational financial topics, and this content is customized for caregivers. So today we're going to be obviously talking budgeting. So let's click on the budgeting tile, and we're going to get started building your budget. If you want to learn more about budgeting, I encourage you to read through the rest of this content and watch the videos are fantastic. But we're going to start with this budget builder tool. It's going to bring you down the screen a little bit. And this is a really fun, easy, interactive tool to use. If you've never budgeted before, this can really help you get started. So we're going to just zip through it pretty fast. These are all made up numbers that I'm just kind of coming up with right now. And I want to draw your attention to this left panel where you can see numbers change as we enter information. So we're going to put income in and expenses as well. So let's say we have 3,000 monthly, and your spouse maybe brings home 1,600 every 2 weeks. And then we're just going to click through, and you can just see how easy it is to enter these numbers as you go through. And we're coming through each of these areas on housing, rent or mortgage. And again, obviously you'd use your own information. These are just kind of placeholder numbers for us. And we see this number slowly go down. At the top, we have our monthly income, and then we have that running total of the difference at the bottom. So it's an easy process to go through and see where you're at. We have a vehicle loan payment, and we cover these big major categories like housing, food, transportation, and on and on. We'll say 50, 0. And if you don't enter a number, if you don't enter 0, you don't have to enter 0 for 0. It just doesn't add anything for that section. We'll say this. Okay, so it'll be interesting here in a minute to see where we end up. And we have this total. We still are positive. 1,050 here left. We'll say 0, 300 here. And every person's situation is unique. So what works for you and what your budget looks like is going to be different than anybody else. We're going to say 250. Okay, we see this number going down a little bit. Okay, we're going to keep going. We're going to get all the way to the end. We're on the last screen. All right, and here's what we're going to be talking about today: school costs. We'll say 50 a month, and again, these are monthly expenses. Say 0 and 0. Okay, so we that didn't take too long, just a minute or two, and we get to this ending screen. We're going to click Finish. And this brings you to the results page. We're going to talk about view your budget button here in just a minute. But as you can see for this example, we went a little short this month. So we went $195 over what we brought in. So we'll offer some customized adjustments and customized suggestions if that's the case. If it's positive, we have some other suggestions of what you want to do with those resources that aren't allocated. In this insights section, you're going to see section by section, a ranked order of spending, of outflows. And then we offer some additional customized suggestions on what may work to get your budget in a place where you're not spending more than you're bringing in. Now, no information is saved on this tool. So if you enter your information and come back to it, it's not going to be there when you come back. But you can click this View Your Budget page, and that is going to come up with like a PDF, printable PDF page that you can save. And the nice thing is that you have all your inputs on this left column in each category, and then you have your monthly goals on the right. So you can come back to this and fill it out and say, you know what, we can spend a little less on groceries, or maybe dining out, we cut back a little bit on this month, or it's, in our case, streaming services. So there's lots of ways to save. There's lots of ways to adjust your budget. But the important thing about budgeting is you have to know what's coming in and going out to be able to make those informed decisions. So next, we're going to kind of transition to talking a little bit more about budgeting and why it's important. So I'll go ahead and pass it back to Natasha.
Yeah. Kimberly, this is, it's been so great to work with you and hear your story. And I think we collectively here feel like budgeting should be an important part of any household. But really, we want to hear why it's important to you.
Yes, it helps me make realistic financial goals. It really has empowered me to make educated decisions about our family's future. I can see where the money is going and have a plan for the future. I start graduate school next week, and I have two kids who will be starting college in a few years. And due to financial goal planning and budgeting, I don't have to worry about student loans or worry about if those expenses will be covered because we already have mapped that out. So we're able to just really be empowered by the budget and see what is really possible and what maybe really isn't realistic.
That's a fantastic point. That awareness is really important and helps you prioritize that spending and the resources that you do have. And you can check out the tools on the webpage. There are some guidelines that financial planners will recommend for transportation costs, housing costs, and it's a good way to see, are you within those guidelines? But until you actually look at your numbers and you look at what you have coming in and what you have going out, it's hard to make those adjustments if you don't know. So, start with where you are and use the budget to help you ease some of that anxiety if you don't know where you're at and what choices you can make moving forward.
Absolutely. Thank you. Kimberly, can you talk a little bit about how it has helped you?
Absolutely. So I've been able to reach several financial goals by budgeting. We were able to pay off $120,000 in debt since my husband medically retired from the Army. We've paid off a car. We don't have student loans. We stopped living paycheck to paycheck. We're not worried about money. I even asked him today, like, just to make sure, like, is it just me or are you worried? He said no. Like, that weight has been lifted off of mine and my husband's shoulders. We don't worry about money. We know where our money is going. We know what our spending limits are, and our whole family is involved, even our kids, with the budget because they are older. My kids are 12 and 15, and they're both very aware of what is in budget, what we're working towards, and um, sometimes we do have to say no to things, but we're able to. Even next month, we'll be attending the Hidden Helpers Summit at Disney World. So we're able to spend a week at Disney World, which is only possible because of budgeting. It really has helped us all feel empowered, and we're not afraid to look at the bank account anymore.
I think that is so powerful, Kimberly, and thanks for sharing your experience and how being aware of what money is coming in, what's going out, how that can help you prioritize and be able to take advantage of things like the Hidden Helpers week at Disney World. That is amazing. And I'll add a little more to that. When we were talking with caregivers about their financial well-being and challenges that they faced, often we heard that with caregivers, there's so much that's outside of your control. There are so many things that um, you can't manage as a caregiver, and that you're adapting to all the time. But your budgeting does not have to be one of those things that are outside of your control. And once you understand that, and once you are able to see what's coming in and what's going out, that is something that you can really use as a tool to make those informed decisions and be proactive when you know there's something fun coming up, like a trip to Disney World for Hidden Helpers, or in the event of the case of what we're talking about today, back to school, you can make those plans ahead of time to be ready for that when the cost comes, rather than having to be reactive and potentially rely on something like a credit card and then incur that additional cost associated with interest. And so that sense of being proactive. Excuse me, that sense of being proactive and being empowered is really a great step forward in the budgeting process.
Yeah, that's great, Kimberly. And, I think goal setting goes hand in hand with budgeting. And you mentioned goals for yourself, going back to school, Disney World, paying off debt just sounded like some goals, and that you achieved these goals too. What is the connection for you between setting financial goals and budgeting?
For me, it's a really strong connection. After my husband was medically retired, I really wanted stability. Our original goal when he went into the army was that he would retire after 20 years. We'd have a long career, and he was medically retired after 5. So that kind of went out the window. Like our whole future plan was gone. So we needed to really figure out what's next. So after he was medically retired, um, we had to recheck our budget. I didn't get PCAFC. His pension would not pay the bills. And we didn't want to live below the poverty line. So, and I didn't want my kids to worry about financial stability. So we made a financial goal that I would get my bachelor's degree, and transition into the workforce while still being his caregiver so that we could make enough money to meet the goals. I worked overnight in retail stocking shelves. And I even picked up some shifts during the day, cashiering, so I could afford to go to college, and then university. I was able to meet the financial goals, and my caregiving responsibilities. I was also able to get transitioned to a remote job, which tripled my income, and I started making $35,000 and more than doubling our household income. While I was a military move coordinator. And then I got 3 upward promotions in 3 years. I didn't stop working towards the financial goal. Today, we're financially free, and our household income is in the 6 figures. But I would not be here today if we did not sit down, make a budget, and talk about like what we really wanted for the future and making those hard decisions. Like it wasn't easy to work full time while going to school full time and caregiving full time. Like none of it was easy. But making that budget and seeing like it's going to pay off in 5 years, and it has. Like 5 years, I can imagine like this is where I'd be in 5 years, but it has really paid off just having that budget and making those financial goals.
That's great.
Kimberly, I love that. That is absolutely amazing, and just I I mean, I'm so proud of you for working as hard as you have worked, and the sacrifices and the effort that you have made to support your family through a lot of really significant challenges. And I think that, talking about goals, and a goal is not achievable until you kind of break it down into smaller pieces. And so and it sounds like your goals kind of changed over time a little bit. As you started to achieve some goals, you kind of are looking forward to some other bigger things, and more things become possible as time goes on because you are achieving your goals. So I would say when we're talking about financial goals, and Kimberly is a fantastic example of this, you want to make goals that are what we call SMART goals. So that, and this is not just for financial goals, it can apply across the board to any type of goal. But you want to make sure goals are SMART. So that means that they're specific. In Kimberly's case, getting a bachelor's degree. Measurable. What's that going to take to happen? Attainable. Kimberly is obviously able to do this academically and made the time to make it happen, made it attainable. For her, relevancy, it had a huge impact on her ability to earn more income for their family, and so obviously very important for her life situation. And time bound, when do you want that to be done? So again, for goals, you want specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. And then goal setting helps you kind of point you in the right direction. It's like that final destination. For you can have short-term goals, long-term goals, but your budget is really that roadmap that helps you get there. It's helping you decide, am I turning right or left here? Am I going straight? What am I doing? How am I chipping away at these goals month by month and paycheck by paycheck? Um, some of the more common goals that we talk about that are important for financial well-being and financial readiness are the importance of having an emergency fund. Um, so we recommend financial professionals generally recommend about 3 to 6 months of living expenses to be saved in a separate account for your emergency fund. And if that seems like a lot right now, that's okay. Start with $1,000 set aside. And the important thing to remember is that this is for, you get a flat tire, your refrigerator breaks, those kind of emergency expenses that all of us experience, that happen to all of us. You want to be able to have that cash on hand to deal with those, rather than again having to potentially turn to something like a high interest credit card. So importance of having an emergency fund. And then another goal, back to school. I mean, back to school comes around every year, and we know that those costs vary depending on your situation. But the average cost to go back to school, based on some research I've recently reviewed, it's about $600 to send one child back to school. And that's a lot if you're paying all of that upfront at one time. But think about breaking that down into a smaller goal. Your needs might be a little bit higher, lower, but break that down into smaller pieces and save up for it a little, little by little ahead of time to help you reach those goals. And that budget builder tool can help you do that with that school cost line item already in there. So I really encourage you to think about what your own goals are, short term, long term, write them down, and then decide how you're going to achieve them step by step.
Yeah, thank you for that, Katie. Kimberly, I appreciate at the beginning how you were vulnerable and talked about how scary it was to look at, your bank accounts and money, and because of maybe how little that was there. And with caregiving sometimes being unpredictable and lots of folks on fixed incomes,
Mhm.
what is your advice for who should have a budget?
I really think that everyone should have a budget, no matter how little, like even if it's just $10,000 per year coming in or $200,000 per year coming in. Money can cause strain on relationships, and with just so many unknowns. I know my biggest regret is just not starting a budget sooner, because we were living, like just like you said, like afraid to look at the bank account. We didn't know how much we were like, I knew we didn't have enough to cover the bills, so I was just like, why am I going to look at it? And I was always afraid that we didn't have enough money. Um, and having a budget really released that stress. And that helped a lot with our relationship. And it helped us, everyone in our family, feel empowered to make financial decision. And it really does help make you more financially stable in the future, because once you look at it, you can really figure out, like, what can I do about this situation? And I know that the Elizabeth Dole Foundation has resources that if you just don't have enough to get by month to month, and hopefully you can share more about that, Natasha, but like once you see it and you see like how much you're struggling, or like maybe you are struggling to even afford your electric bill, there are ways you can get help with that. But without knowing where your money is going, without budgeting, and just not being aware of what's going on, it's hard to feel empowered about your future.
Absolutely. And, I'm sure Natasha will talk about the Hope Fund for Critical Financial Assistance and those resources that are available in the event that you are having trouble making ends meet and you need some additional support. Resources are available for you. Um, Sometimes when I've talked with caregivers and talked about budgeting, I've gotten exactly that feedback that I just don't have, there just isn't enough. I don't have enough resources to budget. And I really want to push back on that a little bit. A budget is for everybody, regardless of how much is coming in and how much is going out, because by having that awareness, even if you need assistance, you still are able to make decisions on where your money is going and be able to prioritize. And if you are putting $5 away per week to your emergency fund, that is something to celebrate, and that is fantastic for your financial well-being. It's kind of like a ball rolling downhill. You're gonna gain more momentum as you go. Um, and I love that you talked about the importance of communication, Kimberly, because budgeting really is a team sport. Um, it by having these conversations about money, it's hard to talk about money. People grow up with different backgrounds and different ways of dealing with money and managing money and different levels of experience and knowledge. And so it's very, very important to have those open and honest conversations about money and be transparent to be able to um, have less stress, less anxiety, and really address your concerns and achieve the goals that you want to achieve. Um, and in talking about kids, especially older kids that have a little bit more awareness and a little bit more. Sometimes older kids, in my experience, are a little more expensive as well with all the technology and the fancy shoes and all of that. I think helping them understand those needs versus wants and having those conversations early can help them start to prioritize spending and understand how much things cost and what choices they can't say yes to everything. What can we say yes to now and maybe say yes to down the road by prioritizing? So, income level is not a function of budgeting is not a function of income level. And no matter where you're at, I really encourage you to budget the resources that you do have coming in.
Thank you. And then also, just keeping in mind as we're preparing to go back to school, you brought up $600 per student. That's
Yep,
a lot of money, especially
it
when you
is.
have multiple children going back to school. So what are some other things to keep in mind when preparing for back to school shopping?
Yeah, there's lots of great things that you can keep in mind as you're getting ready for back to school. And I know every situation's a little bit different, whether you homeschool your kids or your kids go to public or private school. There are different associated costs. Maybe your kids wear a uniform. Maybe they have a specific supply list that they need to, or maybe for you, back to school shopping is helping your kid get ready for college. I have my oldest going to college this year, so that is an experience, brand new experience for us. Um, but I would say to really understand what your costs are. But first thing you want to do is kind of shop your own house. What do you have? Look at those backpacks and lunch boxes and clothes, maybe supplies from the previous year, and see what can you reuse this year. What is still in good shape? What can you move forward with? I feel like I'm buying new shoes for at least one kid all the time because they grow so fast. But maybe there's some things that you can reuse. So I guess first thing, shop your house first, get a good inventory of what you already have, and then line that up against what you need. And but depending on your situation, that could be different things. But build your shopping list off of those needs that you need to fill in um, compared to what you already have. One thing I like to think about too is that, here in Texas, we're not going to need warm clothes until probably, I don't know, Kimberly, December maybe. And so those warm jackets, those sweaters, I'm not even going to worry about that for a while. So that'll give me a little more time to save for those kinds of things. So, depending on where you are, you can wait to make some of those purchases or get some of those things later on that make more sense down the road. Um, the next thing I'd recommend is to compare prices. I mean, online, brick and mortar stores might have different deals going on at different times. So compare those prices between different places. And sometimes those retailers will even offer a price match. So if you find a great deal at one store but you're buying more of your stuff at another place, get in touch with them and say, hey, can you price match this other store? So that way you can save a little bit money there too. Third tip I have is to consider shopping on a tax-free weekend. I know that that's not something that applies, to all states across the board, but if your community offers that, if your state offers that, find out when that is, and that can really save you some money on the tax side, to get these back to school items that you may need. And then the last thing I'd really recommend when we're talking about back to school is buying in bulk. I'm getting ready to send my two younger kids are both in middle school, and so they have pretty similar lists. And so I'm probably going to buy kind of a big pack of notebooks and then divide them. And so for us and for this point, that makes sense to buy some of those kinds of things in bulk. But just keep in mind, like you can replenish later in the year. You don't have to get everything all at once. Um, so think about what your needs are, and I would just say again, go back to that list that you have, prioritize what is most important now, and think about what you're going to need later on. And do I really need to get this right now? So those are kind of our four main tips for back to school shopping. And Kimberly, what else would you add to that? Because I know your back to school shopping is a little bit different. We've talked about this previously.
Yes, I know one big thing for me was our curriculum had gone up in price, so just making sure to check and follow. Are they, if you are buying curriculum, is it going up in price? Is it staying the same? What kind of budget do you need? And also we have memberships to like the zoo, the other activities around the city, and making sure we plan for field trips and co-ops and making sure that really I over budget for that too, because something always comes up where there's another field trip. We're like, hey, we can do this cool field trip to a historical place, but it's going to cost like $25. So making sure I have a little bit of extra room, because especially in the homeschool community, there's new fun things popping up all the time, and I would rather be able to say yes than no. So just making sure you have that little extra wiggle room and really base it on last year's budget. So I look at maybe last year I'd spent $1,500 on field trips. So maybe this year I'll set aside $1,700. So I can at least cover what we did last year, but still plan ahead just in case. And just making sure always keeping an eye on those essentials. For me, curriculum is an essential, so making sure I'm keeping up to date with pricing because that's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
And making sure I can cover that.
Yep. That brings up a fantastic point too, is curriculum costs, but then extracurricular activities as well. If you have kids that are into theater or sports or music, there's all kinds of costs associated with that as well, potentially. So, make sure that that you consider that in your budget. And that is unfortunately, from what kind of my experience and the research I've seen, those costs are in addition to that $600 average. So, sports fees, uniforms, lessons, all of the things, it seems like they can really add up over time. So be aware of what those requirements are, depending on what your kids are interested in and what they're doing, and be ready for those, so you're not surprised when you get the bill for that new uniform or the fee for that. In our case, it's a swim team. So be ready for those things. We love to see our kids do those things. And again, budgeting is all about making choices, and being able to prioritize what's important to you, and what maybe needs to be on the not now list. So having a budget, knowing where those must spend things are for you, is really, really important. And that's something that your budget can help you do.
Thank you both so much for your input there. Before we go into Q&A, I would love to hear any final thoughts or suggestions, um, surrounding our budget tool, back to school, the importance of budgeting, and just any considerations for back to school, if any of you have any final input there.
Yes, something did just come to mind when we're talking about extracurriculars, especially if your child's getting into a new sport. I didn't realize how much nationals would cost if they made it that far, and my daughter did. So we had like a $4,000 travel expense that was not planned at all. We were able to budget around it and move stuff around, but I didn't know that was an option. So if your child is going to be starting a new extracurricular where something like that could happen, where like there's maybe you have to travel at some time, making sure that you budget for that too. Because that was And I maybe asked those questions. I didn't know to ask that question. Like, hey, is there going to be a $4,000 expense at the end of the school year? I was not ready for that. No one told me to ask that. So, especially when starting, just be sure to ask questions so you can make sure your budget is in line with what's going to happen.
That's a great point. And I think that leads to another point I'd like to share is that your budget changes over time as your kids grow, as your family changes, as income and expenses potentially change. Your budget needs to change along with those things as well. So, being able to adjust to that new activity, or adjust to, like in Kimberly's example, her earnings changed dramatically over a short period of time, and making those choices on, okay, where you have more income now, how does that allow you to do some other things or make some other goals? Or if there's a job loss, you want to make sure that you understand that how your essentials are covered, and what things that maybe you need to change until that job loss can be remedied. But budgeting is not a static thing. It's not I'm going to do my budget for the month of August or the month of July, and then I got it all figured out for the rest of the year. It's over time, and sometimes I just encourage you, that first time can be kind of hard, to figure out how to do it and to understand what's going to work best for you. But the budget builder tool can be a great place to start, and then find the way that works best for you, the time that works best for you. And I'm going to kind of put myself out totally out here as a total nerd, but I really enjoy budgeting on Friday nights after the end of the work week. It is my favorite thing to close out the week and just get ready for the weekend and kind of put the work week to rest. And that's what works best for me. Now, I hear that that does not work great for everybody. That Friday night is not their preferred night to budget, but find the time that works for you and the routine that works for you, and it gets better, easier, more empowering the more that you do it.
That's great, Katie. And because budgeting is so ever changing and influenced by so many factors, I think it's important to just, you might just need a little time each week to just glance at your budget.
Mhm.
Maybe not go do a full dive into it and change it up, but
Yep.
just I think having that relationship with, I'm going to check in with you, budget, once a week and see what you're looking like and what's going on there. And it really creates that habit of
Absolutely.
budgeting. And so
Absolutely.
I think it's so important to do that and then just set aside the time, even if it is a quick check-in weekly, just to look
Mhm.
at it.
And it can give you just awareness of what your expenses are. I mean, it's kind of an easy thing to for my family is, there's a lot of separate interests. There's a lot of streaming services. Like, why do we have all these different things that we're streaming videos and movies and games and all? Do we need all of these things? And so that's kind of an evolving conversation. And there's times where, like, you know what, this we don't need this. Why, let's get rid of that. Or I thought we didn't have that anymore, but we're still paying for it. So it's an accountability. It's a way to keep yourself accountable. Make sure that what you're doing, what the actions that you're actually taking, are in alignment with those goals that you want to achieve. Um, and is it more important to have that streaming service for this month than to, have a fully funded not retirement, but a fully funded emergency fund, for example? You have to weigh those things against each other, and make the best decision for your family. Um, and again, there's lots of ways to budget. I mean, the budget builder is a great place to start. There, if you like pen and paper, do that. Excel spreadsheets. There are many, many apps out there that can help you with your budgeting. So find the way that you're comfortable with, and that is the way that you can stick with it. And I like your term, Natasha, about having that relationship with your budget, that check in with your budget. Um, it's not, I would challenge you to not think about it as kind of a judgmental thing, but as an empowering action that you can take to take a step closer to those goals that you're trying to reach.
Absolutely. And then just also, mention of goals, revisiting those goals. It just taking a glance, write those goals down.
For sure.
Maybe they're written on your budget,
Hmm.
but revisiting those because your goal, they change, you achieve
Hmm.
them. And I think celebrating your goals when you do achieve that,
Yep.
is important as well. Um,
Absolutely.
this has been wonderful. I would love to jump into, we have some great questions that
Mhm.
came to us ahead of time, and I would love to take the time to answer some of those questions. One of them, it says, how can I adjust my budget throughout the school year?
So that is, we've talked about that a little bit already, adjusting your budget over time as things change, keeping doing it. That is, I think, the number one thing. Um, Making note of what expenses and costs are coming up, how your income maybe changes. There's a lot of people that have unpredictable income or variable income that changes month to month depending on what is coming in and what's going out. So I would say make sure that you're tracking those changes over time and looking ahead to those activities that are coming up. If your child is doing um, dance competition in the spring, what potentially does that look like for your budget? Are there new uniforms that they need, or new shoes, or they do amazing and you're so proud of them for making it to nationals, but there's some cost associated with that. So knowing that ahead of time, being prepared, having that awareness can really, really help you. So I'd say as the school year goes on, knowing it's coming, being as prepared as you can that it's coming, and it's coming again next year. So, think ahead of time to be able to set that money aside for school expenses the following year too, because it's happening every single year. So, just make it part of that routine and kind of spread it out over the year so it's not so impactful at one time.
That's great, thank you. And then this one is especially important to me because I have a little fourth grader who loves to buy whatever there is on the lunch menu, whether it's three ice creams or cookies for her friends.
Mhm.
This one, how do I keep my kids, or I'm sorry, how do I help my kids understand back to school expenses, like additional lunch expenses, and shopping smart?
Mhm, mhm. I think that that's a great question. I have one of those too that like I'm having ice cream every day and I'm like, "Well, why? We have food at home." So I packed you lunch. So we have those conversations as well. And I think it goes back to that idea of communication and open communication. Your family, your household is a team pointing toward the same goal of financial well-being, the same goal of financial stability and security. So age appropriate. I mean, it depends on developmental level and how old your kids are, but I think to be as transparent as possible to say, this is what we have set aside for, ice cream for the week. When that's gone, and we can revisit it again next week or next month, however you want to do that. But I think having that conversation, being transparent, talking about what the budget is for clothes, for example, it seems like um, clothes can be another hard one where you're trying to make sure that your kids have what they need, but you don't go overboard by getting too much. So I think providing them, depending on their age, maybe give them a number and say this is what we're staying within for back to school expenses, and we're going to work together. And I've seen where you can even kind of make it a bit of a game. Oh, I can get this one shirt, or maybe I can go to this other place, or get this something different and get two shirts instead. So I'd really make it an activity, be as transparent and open as you can, and be just work together as a team on that. Anything, Kimberly, that you'd add to that?
Um, for me, it's just been a lot of transparency and letting them know what the goal is. Right now, we're working to
Mhm,
pay off the last 30,000 in our mortgage, um,
mhm,
and making sure that we can work towards that goal as a family. Because once we do that, that's one less um, thing that's coming out of our paycheck each month, and we'll have that extra money every single month to do more with. So just making sure they know. And my kids are very dedicated. They're like, they'll tell us, like, hey, no, we can't get that. We can't splurge on that today. Because sometimes I mean, I didn't go into $120,000 of debt by being responsible with money. So like there are still those times where I'm like, oh, it's just one small thing. My kids are like, no, we're working towards a goal. So just like being transparent with them, and really just helping them understand what the end goal is. Like the goal is to go to college and be debt free and to be able to use your money maybe in the future on something that you like really want to do, or like our upcoming Disney trip.
mhm.
And they understand the finances, and they can help us help me with those splurges sometimes when I'm like, oh, it's just one small thing. It's just one pair of shoes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, and I think it can help. And we've talked a little bit about having that written budget or have those goals written down somewhere and show your progress against them. You know what and I think it's really powerful, especially for those some of those longer term goals. Track them year over year. If your goal is to save. I mean, say you want to take a trip in 3 years and that trip is going to cost $5,000. show your progress against that, because it might not seem a lot by month to month, week to week, or month to month, or giving up the making that sacrifice for something now, but over time that really, really does add up, and you can really see the impact, especially over months and years. And so those big goals, it can be hard to stay on track with them. um, I'd say too, like, automate that savings. You can set up automatic payments to different accounts. You can obviously automatic bill pay, that sort of thing, but automate that savings as much as you can. So I mean, for me, it's almost automatically out of your paycheck. You know that you're saving towards retirement, or you're making, with every paycheck that comes in, $20 of that is going toward that goal. So consider that as kind of taking the decision making every single time out of it before you decide there's something else that you just have to have in the moment that maybe isn't a necessity.
That's great.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you. We have one last question here before we wrap up. Um, the the question is, I don't know where to start. What should I do?
What would you say, Kimberly? How would you answer that?
For me, I used the every dollar budget, which was very similar to the tool that you showed. So I would probably even recommend that because that sounded like it looked like it was way faster. I've used the tool and it is very helpful, but just sitting down, getting what the income is. We both have fixed incomes. I have salary and he has his pension. So we were able to just sit down and put those numbers in and just really did what you did and just went through our
Hmm.
expenses and made a realistic, looked at our bank. We were like, this is how much we're spending eating out. This is how much we're spending on groceries. This is how much we're like really sitting down with, not just guessing when you're making your
Hmm.
like, oh, I think we'll spend 400 on groceries. I'm spending like there's been times where we spent 1,000 on groceries just because the price of everything just keeps going up. And
Yeah.
that was when I didn't have a budget where I was like, oh, it's just this, it's just that. Like I was adding extra things to my groceries, so I didn't have a limit, but like I need to put that in the budget. Like right now, I'm spending
Hmm.
$1,000 on groceries. We're spending $200 eating out. We're spending $400 on clothes and shoes and things like that. Um, so my very first budget was just like a realistic, hey, this is what we're doing, and then seeing that red number of like, hey, okay, so this is what we need to change.
Hmm.
Negative, we don't have money, and first step was I think I just need to get a job, but seeing like where can we cut, uh,
Hmm.
where can we shop differently? Like we started shopping at Aldi because we saw the groceries were cheaper there, and things like that, like making contingencies. And for me, that was like the first step was like not just making a budget, but like and not just picking future numbers like, oh, this would be great, but like we have to be realistic. You can't just cut from $1,000 in groceries to $300 just because you want to.
Right.
Like to make the
Right.
numbers work, like it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
My advice is just to start with what are you currently doing? Like look at the last maybe 2 months and say like this is what we did in
Hmm.
uh, June. This is what we did in July. This is what we did in May. Whatever that works for you. I know it might be a little bit time consuming, but seeing your actual spending patterns was so helpful for us and helped us
Yeah.
get where we are today. It helped us pay off $120,000 in debt and do other things too. So like it works for us.
That's amazing. And we, if you're not sure where to start, the take action. Do the first thing. Know where you're at right now. We have more information on the budgeting section of the Caregiver Financial Journey, and it will walk you very easily through our the budgeting process. The first thing is know where you're at right now. Look back at your statements from the last 30 days or 60 days. Or, you can also just keep receipts moving forward or track expenses moving forward for the next 30 days, whichever is easier for you. But you have to know where you are and then take a really honest look and decide, is this where I want to be and where can I make some changes? So we have that recommendation to certain areas to focus on. Is my transportation expense really high? Do I need to rethink that a little bit? Um, Groceries, utilities, those sorts of things. Can I change some of those expenses or bring some of those down? Or do I need to add more hours at work? Can I change what's coming in? Can I increase what's coming in some way? So step one, know where you are. Step two is to know where you should be or where you want to be, and then make a plan. Look at that plan and say, okay, this is where I think I am right now. This is where I want to be, and this is how I'm going to get there. And then put it into action. Put that plan into action. And then as things change, as your income goes up, as um, as you are making other adjustments, maybe you're trying to pay off debt or you're trying to save towards that emergency fund. Make those adjustments moving forward because it's life is changing all the time, and your budget should reflect your needs at that time.
Yeah. This has been a great conversation. I hate to end it, but we covered the budget tool. We covered back to school shopping. Kimberly, thank you so much for sharing your story of just empowerment and resilience and just I can't wait to see you in Disney World and your family. That's going to be wonderful. What a great goal to achieve, and I love seeing pictures of your dancer. So we're just really happy for you and your family, and um, I can't think of any better person to, just show people how to do it, how to do the work. And it's hard work, but it can be done. And as always, Katie, I appreciate your financial guidance in all of this. And I look forward to being able to do more Facebook Lives so we can bring our community together and really empower each other.
I agree 100%. And Kimberly, you're an absolute inspiration. And I thank you for sharing your story and being so open and willing. These aren't easy things to talk about. And I want to make sure to acknowledge that this is one of those things it's it is a hard thing to make happen, and you made it happen. So um you're an inspiration. I really, really appreciate your honesty and openness here today. So thank you very much.
Thank you.